This is Amária Sweet.
And I'm Crystal Cedar.
And this is HeartMind Expressions podcast. And in this two-part series that we're doing, we're going to be delving into our daily energy field awareness practices, especially during this quarantine time when we're locked up together. In this two-part series, the first part will be identifying toxic relationships and how it affects your energy field. In the second part of the series, we'll be talking about recharging and replacing your energy after a clearing, and of course with nature and the elements and with sound healing.
Identifying toxic relationships and how it affects your energy field. And the main ones that you and I were talking about that seem to stand out the most for people are toxic energies that come from romantic relationships, contract relationships, and family obligation relationships.
And it's amazing the different depths that we'll have on the contracts that we'll go to as well when we get to that. So to start, how do we identify those toxic relationships?
So we've been talking a lot about how people can protect themselves, ground themselves in their energy field, take more responsibility of their energy field using crystals, using meditation, using other suggested methods that we've talked about in previous shows. But the number one thing right now, and especially because everyone is in quarantine, is the toxic relationships that really tax our energy fields and steal our energy. Like you said, vampirism.
Right.
Energetic vampirism.
Which is never fun.
No, it's not. And it's basically when people take or drain your energy without your consent from your energy field. And because everyone's getting more aware of their energy field, especially during this quarantine right now, people are being more aware because some of those toxic relationships aren't present in their daily lives. For example, let's start out with contract relationships. A lot of people are not going to work in their regular workplace, and so they're not as exposed to the vampires, energetic vampires, such as coworkers, bosses, superiors, even demands from like markets and the public. And so that's already showing people like, dang, without going to work, like this is already a huge relief for me because I don't have to face that every day. But the world will change and we will have to go back to work. And so the awareness is like, okay, what has been draining me? And now that it's not in my life, how do I prepare for it when I have to get back into that life? And so one of the contracts, so that was the first contract of toxicity, is workplace. Everyone has methods now that we've gone over where you could use crystals to protect yourself and ground yourself. You've gone over meditations that people can use at the end of a long work day in order to clear their minds and center and reground after being like onslaughted by a bunch of vampires all day.
Right.
Yep. The second contract, and this is kind of more on the lighter side, but still really serious, animal contracts, the contracts that we have with our animals in our lives. So pets like dogs, cats, livestock, if you have livestock, horses, things like that. I know for me, I have cats. I have hella cats. Amária, how many pets do you have?
I have one cat. He's fun. He's the new one.
And any other animals in your life?
I do. I've got a little dachshund and 11 chickens. My little mother cluckers is what we call them. My kids and I like to joke around with that.
And animals are really great to have in our lives, but we have to understand, like, it's a balance and it has to be with reciprocation. Like, we cannot use these beautiful beings that share our lives of other species and use them as batteries. Like, that's a common misconception a lot of people have, especially during quarantine. Like, a lot of shelters and animal shelters are like, yes, please adopt, because, you know, we're overflowing right now because people are either finding out that they can't take care of these animals or they're falling ill and then they physically can't take care of these animals. But I find it the same for people sometimes when they have human kids. It's like they expect to have this thing in their life and then it'll love them unconditionally. And then that mentality is already coming from a vampire standpoint. Like they're not even looking for a life form to share their life with. They're actually looking for who has the best energy that I can drain the hell out of.
Right.
Yeah.
Which
So
is
it's really
sad to
important.
see a lot with the amount of
Yes.
abuse. And so I think a lot of times keeping in mind those energies, you know, realizing like if you're in a bad mood, don't go kick the cat, don't go yell at your kid because whatever went loose. This is why we're saying, you know, we got to get back to being grounded so that we
Right.
can stop those negative behaviors, that toxic stuff, because you don't want to be the next cat that gets kicked. So let's stop that wheel of karma so that we can move forward on that.
Exactly. A lot of people, luckily though, are also stepping up in a positive way and being like, oh my gosh, you've been here in my life during work. Now's my 2 weeks, 3 weeks time where I can give back to you. Like, what do you need? So they're taking their animals out for walks, like without paying somebody to do it. They're doing it themselves and getting the exercise that they need. Or maybe they're reevaluating the kind of food that they've been feeding their cats and their dogs or their animals at home. Because, you know, everybody's made that run where they have to go to the grocery store and they're thinking like, what do I need to get to stockpile? Why stockpile on the crappy food where you can get high quality food? Yeah, it's going to hurt your wallet a little bit, but if, you know, we have to go into a lockdown situation, I would rather feed my animals higher quality food with a better conscience than crappy food because I'm cheap.
Right. Well, and you know, one of the things that I've noticed with my animals, Chettle, come here. I'll show the people that are going to watch the video. He's an 11-year-old dog, and
Aww.
he looks very young. I mean, other than, you know, he's got his white whiskers or those little white hairs coming in. And I've
He's so
always
cute.
fed very, very high quality. I don't do the grains because they not only have fungus, but they also have pesticides and herbicides. There's a lot of dye added, and dyes are neurotoxic. And so
Yeah.
we love our babies. And you know, when you feed them like this, we don't have vet bills with this guy because he's healthy. We don't have cancer.
Yeah.
We don't have pills. We don't have obesity. I mean, this is a very healthy wiener dog. I mean, he's got his waistline. I know we're gonna show you off, huh? It's a doggy show. And so, but just showing what healthy nutrition for your animal looks like, and it saves you a load of money in the future because, like, for his 50 pounds of dog food is like $34, which really isn't
Yeah. Yeah.
bad.
I've noticed too, because I've seen it on a couple of animal shows where people are taking the best care of their animals, giving them like the most expensive raw food diets and things like that.
Oh,
And the
right.
animals, when the animals are still having problems, sometimes it is like a karmic contract, you know, like pet parents have to take care of this one
Right,
maybe
right.
not as healthy animal in order to satisfy or fulfill a past life contract or
That's
whatever.
a
But
good point.
also, yeah, but also I've seen where the pet parents have like done that better quality food and stuff, but they're overusing their pets as batteries for
Yeah,
themselves.
yeah.
So it's like what is that, Munchausen syndrome or something like that, where
I
they're
think
like
so. Yeah.
Munchausen by proxy, I think, where it's like parents will feed their child toxic things and then just to get the attention of, oh, my child is sick. That can happen with animals too.
Oh,
But
maybe.
anyway, but the point is like monitor the contracts that you have with your animals. Are you the toxic, you know, source of things that might be stressing them out? Are you the source of why they might be so nervous? Because especially with dogs, they're a lot more sensitive, I think, than cats. Cats are sensitive, but they're like, yeah, F you.
Right,
Maybe,
right.
right?
That
Yeah,
little
they're like,
frontal
oh, I
lobe
know what this
difference.
is. Yeah, vampire, bye. Yeah. But dogs are too sweet and they'll be like, I'm here, what do you need? And drain out. Like,
And yeah, so unconditional. It's
yeah.
amazing.
So monitoring that toxicity with our animals. Was there anything else you wanted to add to the animal contracts? How about livestock? How does that work?
Well, I stopped eating meat. I'm not going to tell people that they have to. So I think it's how you respect whatever animal that you're harvesting. There is times I'll have meat if I feel like I'm low on iron or something, but I prefer like a very healthy grass-fed beef or chicken or fish that's been raised humanely, slaughtered quickly, and, you know, just in ways that it's not just torturing the animal, making them live in fear and in their feces. And because we've seen some of the farming that our country and other countries have done, and it's horrendous. So
Yeah,
don't support those kind of places. You know, get a hunting license and help to naturally thin herds, which that's okay, that's healthy. And whenever I do harvest an animal, I always do it traditionally. I thank that animal for its sacrifice, and I thank the universe or God or, you know, Father in heaven, whatever you want to call your creator, you know, giving that thanks for that life, and then making sure that I use as much of that animal as I can, just out of respect, because that animal gave its life for me. And it makes a
right.
difference. One, you're not eating all of that toxic negative energy, the pus filled meat. There's like rancid, or maybe there's worms or whatever it could be. There's a lot of disgusting stuff that's been out there, and it stopped me from eating a lot of commercial. But we do have an obligation, even if we're farming those animals, to be kind, to give them the best quality of life that they can have, because we'll be accountable for that. We're their stewards. So we do need to do that with honor and with dignity to them.
Speaking of creator, the next kind of toxic contract that many of us are unfortunately born into without our consent is religion.
Right.
The toxic contract of religion. I've noticed a lot of churches that are more, I guess, Christian, Protestant based. I'm pagan, so I don't I don't know the verbiage, but a lot of religions are taking their services online, and so they're still gathering in these online communities. And yeah, you're not sharing germs, but I had a couple of people express like they didn't really realize how toxic the dependence is of their church or their congregation on relying on the batteries of the people that gather, until it went online. You know, when you have the choice to turn on or turn off,
Right.
like if you physically have to be in a building with a bunch of people, like you're kind of stuck there because you're obligated physically. Yeah. But since everything's going online, they're like, huh, all these words are sounding differently. And, or instead of talking about something positive and uplifting, all I'm getting is a lot of doom and gloom and God told me so and told us so, and it's in the Bible and
Right.
plagues and things like that. And so I actually had somebody reach out to me because it was so bad. It was triggering all kinds of guilt and things like that. She's Baptist. And she was so upset because she thought that her pastor had positive things to say, and and it wasn't. It was complete opposite. He was just basically all self-gratifying, like I told you so, and now it's starting, so this is what we can expect, and blah blah blah. And it was like, calm down, girl. Like,
Right.
no, that doesn't have to happen. And this is the age of divine feminine now, and we have a lot more power over our timeline than had been previously programmed into our minds. But I was wondering if you could speak a little bit on toxic religion
Yeah.
relationships and how people can kind of identify it. Because I don't know. Because I don't know what that is.
Yeah, thank you for asking. That's definitely something I grew up with. I actually grew up Mormon. Here's the lovely little guy that wants to.
He's like,
And
oh, you're talking about religion? I'm here.
I know, right? My little
I was a
deity.
religion. Worship me.
Exactly. And, you know, I did grow up very devoted to religion. I graduated seminary. I went on a mission. I taught, you know, about Jesus and God. And there was a lot of different things I had questions about, just because being shamed a lot about, you know, on one hand, sex is so sacred and it should be shared only with your spouse and this and that, you know, you create a family, and then it's like, don't look at a guy or think bad things or masturbate, or it's just like this total back and forth of confusion, being afraid to even know what a person wants to explore. So a lot of sexual trauma. On top of it, I was being sexually abused. and in a lot of different areas. Yet you can't talk about it because it's always denied. Like, what are you doing to attract that? And I know that there's good aspects of religion. I'm not going to knock religion. Christianity has helped a lot of people. I don't like the side of the fear mongering. I've had several after death experiences. And one of those, I met Christ or Jesus, Yeshua, Christ consciousness, whatever you want to call him. That's the way he was appearing to me. And all I could tell from that was love. It was so much love, so much acceptance. I thought I was going to hell the first time I saw him. And I mean, just the fear that religion brings when I'm on the other side and that scared and there's that much love around, that's how strong, it can impact you, because you're the same person on this dimension as you are in any other dimension, whether it's, you want to call it heaven or whatever vibrational realm that is. Everyone has their language for it. I'm not going to say right or wrong, whatever it is. But there is so much love. And I'm just like, creator could not be negative. Because one of the things I agree on that I've learned from religious people, non-religious, the books I've read, studied, just everything that I've gleaned from God or creator, he doesn't judge. He's not angry. He gives you so many attempts or tries or whatever. And I'm just like, God, reincarnation makes sense with that. I need to be doing the work. I don't need to be looking at someone else to be my savior. If I'm not doing my work, then I'm feeling like I'm incomplete or whatever. But, that's kind of, I guess, how I was feeling, how I was seeing it. And when I really realized the love that our creator has for us, that's when I stopped being religious. And I am no longer Christian. I do observe what Christ taught, and I follow that very much. I guess I could say I follow a lot more like the law of one type thing, or the Taoist or Taoist type teachings of service to others, love, taking the higher road as much as you can. Sometimes you have to defend yourself, that's life, but doing it in as much love as you can really has made a difference on my own healing. And so for me, religion was toxic. I did learn some good values, but you don't have to be in a toxic religious relationship either in order to live those values, because I teach my sons those values without religion, and they are actually doing so much better than when I was doing it with religion. They're showing more respect. They take the time to meditate. They take the time to do spiritual practices with me. We like to smudge and do different indigenous medicines to clean the air, to move energies and different things. And for us, that's healing. If your Bible is what's healing for you, that's wonderful. But please don't use it as a tool to be a weapon. Because if you're using that Bible to judge somebody else, then you're just as wrong as the person doing the sin, just like Jesus said. So let's take the judgment out and use your religion. You don't have to get rid of religion to be able to be on the ascension path. If that is the light that works for you, by all means, that's a great book. Follow the teachings that Christ talks, or Allah or Buddha, whatever you might be reading or studying or whatever. Just don't make it to the point where you're putting that priest on a pedestal and then they crush you because they've just judged you back. They're just people, just like we are. We've got to go inside and love ourselves first. Don't let other people abuse you, and don't be that abuser either, because we're better than that. We are so much better than that. I mean, if those sacred spiritual leaders can be that kind of a leader, we can do it too. We totally can do it.
I totally, I really agree with all of that, for real. Especially when you said, like, people don't have to abandon their faith in order to ascend. Like,
Right.
I know a lot of people are actually blending the two, and the only thing that they're removing is the actual congregation part, where they're paying tithes, like, monthly. Like, I didn't know what a tithe was or what tithing was until my friend explained to me how she has to budget it
Right.
into her whole budget. I'm like, what? You're paying a church? I don't understand. Why don't you just talk to Source directly? Like, you don't have to, it's free to talk to your ancestors, right? It's free to talk to spirit, right? Like,
Exactly.
you don't have to do that.
Exactly.
Where does the money go? Like, are you helping people? Are you doing charities? Because you could just pay the charities directly.
Right.
So that was something that I couldn't understand, and I just had to kind of address within myself, like the defensiveness and the anger of, like, this kind of programming.
Yeah.
But if people can identify in this time how maybe toxic their relationship is currently with their faith, or maybe with their parish or congregation or whatever. Maybe they can restructure it in a way that's healthier energetically for their energy field, so they're not feeling drained on a Sunday right before the week starts,
Right.
or mentally taxing. Because when you're stuck at home for 2 or 3 weeks and you're logging online to this, faith, congregation, whatever sermon, and you're leaving from it drained, lower,
Yeah.
lower frequency, or depressed, that's not what faith is. That's not what
Mm-mm.
spirit wants to do.
No.
So
That should be a red flag right there. And I don't know how, except that it's programming. Years and years,
it
41
is,
years of programming that it
yeah.
literally, when I woke up, it was such a night to day thing that I never questioned or went back. And when you do have that aha moment, I know that you'll see that, whatever that aha is for you. And so, I encourage you to ask questions. Always question everything, because nobody should make you feel like you should have to go in debt to support them. If you want to give a tribute to your pastor and pay that tithing, that's fine, because you are giving a tribute to someone you see as a leader. But don't make it feel like it's going to get you in debt. You shouldn't be hurt by serving someone else. Always take care of yourself. And then with your excess, you can help others, but don't make it a slavery thing.
Colonization and ancestral trauma has a really big piece in that as well, that I'm sure a lot of listeners can kind of identify within their
Right.
own family lines. Your tithing doesn't necessarily go to the building where you guys gather for this spiritual connection. Like, it could be going to your pastor's Mercedes bill, like it could be going to pad your bishop's 6-bedroom mansion, like, it's, be conscious, just be conscious and be aware and ask questions, like you said. And then the last biggest toxic relationship that affects energy fields, and possibly your energy field, romantic.
Yeah.
Romantic toxicity. Yeah.
Codependency, I think, is one of the big, big things that lead people into toxic relationships, because of those obligation things that you're talking about before. Maybe we grew up with a mom that's a certain way or a dad that's a certain way. If we don't break out of cycles and deal with those traumas, we're going to keep doing those cycles until we deal with it. And so if you're getting a divorce, then that's fine, get it done, but you got to still deal with whatever keeps causing those breakups, or whatever keeps causing that trigger for whatever that emotional issue is leading you into toxic relationships. And there could be a lot of different.
100%. The dynamic that I've been noticing during quarantine is, because people haven't been going to work or getting out to vampire off of the regular people that they daily vampire off of, now it's included into one building, a home, and they can only vampire off of their partner or their spouse, or worst of all, their kids. And we'll definitely get into that in a minute. But when you have a spouse or a partner that is 24/7 already vampiring your energy a lot, because you think it's love that you're giving by letting them drain you out, and then you multiply that times 3 weeks of isolation, like, dude, like,
Yeah.
what can we
Mm.
even do with that? What are some words of advice?
Communication is going to be key. You're going to get on each other's nerves. That's just, females and males think differently. And last year, I actually bought some really cool relationship courses about this time. I think it was April or May when I bought those. It was probably about $500 worth. And as an NLP practitioner, for me, that's also continuing education. And I'm fascinated. I'm like, dang, if I'd have known some of this stuff, I probably could have either not got into the relationships or maybe saved my relationships. I'm not going to
Yeah.
go back to them. That's the past. But moving forward, with communication, a lot of times, girls, you're picking too much. Don't be so picky with your guy. He's gonna do it. They want to be a hero. They want to be your rescuer in a way. If you're gonna give him something to do, give him, say, hey, can you get it done by such and such time or such and such day? If they can't, can you do it? If not, drop it and let them get to it. We gotta realize toxic femininity of nitpicking and not just stepping back, because a very balanced divine feminine can step back and accept her partner's help and be cool with it, or tactfully be like, I love that you do A, B, C, D for me. And, I would really love it if you could put the toilet seat down, because at night when I go in, I sit down and I fall in and my butt hits the water. That's terrifying, or whatever, do it in a way that's loving, or, I really feel like I do a lot for you as well. And when you throw your dirty socks on the middle of the floor instead of in the hamper 3 feet away, it just feels kind of disrespectful. And it goes both ways. You never want to ever call names, or, your dad did, or da 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 da. The more effective way to communicate would be with love, with accepting and being gracious for those things that your partner does. And then, going into that one issue and then finding out, do you have an agreement, like, oh yeah, hey babe, I'm so sorry, I just kind of, I get tired, I get up from work, and what can you do to bring a balance together? Because you guys love each other. You met, you fell in love for a reason. If there's still a place that you can have with your partner in your heart, work on that. How can you do it with respect? And if there's something triggering you, can you go inside of yourself and work on those triggers, so that rather than being on this plane of high tension all the time, you can do those meditations, do your breath work, stay grounded, and just really dial that back. You're both going to be communicating partner to partner, adult to adult, instead of that parent child, or that dictator to slave, whatever you want to call that really disrespectful communication. Just be respectful, be loving, work on boundaries with kindness. And there's really cool videos. You could go on YouTube and type in those things. There's so many relationship coaches right now that are helping with what can you do to better communicate. And you're going to carry this into the workplace, and watch how everyone's able to work together in more harmony. You don't have to like somebody to be able to communicate with respect. And it's amazing, even your enemies can respect you. There's a lot of people in my life that they don't like me. I know my former spouses, there's different people in the family that don't like me. I don't care what people think about me. It's none of my business. I wish them well, but I still respect them. And I still tell my children, you need to respect, your stepmom. You need to respect your step family, your dad, your nana, grandpa. I'm like, you guys have the responsibility to be good. Teach your kids. Don't send them on a mission to spy on the stepmom or to spy on the stepdad or whatever. Not cool. Not cool. We are adults. We are people of integrity. And I know that those of you that are listening have been hurt. Put yourself in the other person's space. How would you like to be approached? And doing those practices of respect and dignity and honor, boundaries wise, it's amazing how you can jump through those hurdles with less war and more peace. It's really cool.
Yeah. The weird thing that's been coming out with staying at home for me is there's this crazy phenomenon of a show called 90 Day Fiance. it's
Weird.
It's like the worst examples of vampirism and human toxicity, but especially in relationships, toxic relationships, because these people are not looking for partners. They're actually vampires looking for batteries, which is awful. Oh my God.
Yeah,
energetically, it looks gross. But I've noticed with a lot of older people now whose kids are maybe teens or a little bit maybe into later young adult ages, like early 20s, they're finding that the whole reason why they were together in the first place were because it looked good. So one, it looked good for the families, or it looked good in public, which is a scary reason why a lot of people are getting together now. Like a lot of young people right now, they're doing it for artificial reasons. They want to do it because it looks good on Instagram. They want to do it because it looks good in their Christmas card. Like, I'm going to be with this really good looking person as a partner, and then we're going to create these really beautiful babies because it's going to satisfy a need for me to project perfection. Like I had an imperfect childhood, I had imperfect parents, but I don't have to have that, and I want to have this facade, this illusion. So
those fairy tale relationships can be really, really damaging. That's not a reality. You're gonna not
Nope.
like each other. You're gonna stink.
Yeah.
You guys fart.
Yeah.
You burp. You know, we're
Exactly.
human.
And when you're looking for like the main trigger word, soulmate, twin flame, those words are just true love. Like, I believe true love exists. However, I do not believe in soulmates and twin flames in this new age. That's definitely that one program. Like, I'm like, oh, you're talking about your karmic debt? Like something like that. Yeah. So just being aware, when you're attracted to somebody, are you attracted to them because you're compatible, frequency,
Right.
energetically,
And that's the
interests?
biggest thing is frequency.
Yeah, huge. Or are you just attracted to them because they're a really nice juicy battery for you that you can just feed off of, and then once they're done or drained out or not giving you what you want anymore, you're just going to push them out like a car battery and then get a new battery because you're the
Mhm.
car. That's the consumer. You're
Right.
consuming energy. So that was heavy.
That really was. But you
And
know
then the
the
last,
imagery on that.
right? Ugh. It's like it just went through. So sorry, it was a little graphic.
No, I
the
think sometimes
and
we
then
need that.
yeah, basically, right. The last touch that we'll discuss is family obligation toxicity. How that kind of family obligation affects your energy field. I've seen this dynamic a lot with children and parent dynamics, especially older children with like senior and elderly parents. Um, I come I come from a culture where there's usually one child or one unmarried child that's designated to be like the parent caretaker.
I've seen
Because
that a few times.
culturally, like in my culture, we don't really like to put our elderly or seniors into nursing homes if we can help it. Like, we would
Right.
rather them move in with us or we stay with them until it's absolutely necessary. And even then, we'd rather have like a home care facilitator come to the house versus actually ship them off and pack them up and keep them in another place. But
Yeah,
that's
we've
just a
had that
cultural thing.
similar
Yeah,
upbringing.
nice. But in this time, Maria, when people are having to maybe do a little extra, like maybe they
Right.
don't live with their parents or they don't live near their parents and they're constantly getting FaceTime, they're constantly getting calls, like because maybe the parents are going crazy or maybe their
Mm.
parents in need, and emotionally, not physically, but emotionally,
Right.
just
That's a lot of
constantly
strain.
in need. Yeah, especially when it's triggering things from their generation that were not so positive, like wartime, rations, and stressful things like that. What are some limits and boundaries emotionally that people can do for themselves that you would think would be a good method?
A lot of times we need space. Anybody that's going to have a trigger that's a type of a PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder type thing, we all have it. It's just at different grades, different levels. So if you're feeling some sort of trigger, you know, past trauma, whatever, that maybe you're going to say something or do something, the best thing that I would say it works for me with my boys and I love it is have a trigger word, like red flag or stop, wait. Sometimes I have to do that with my kids. Hey guys, I need a timeout. And they know if I say timeout that we need to separate ourselves from each other for a little while. Timeout, I love you, you know, and they just know. And I think even with parents, with your spouses, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, always have a trigger word because it's better to have that timeout than to say something that you're going to regret to somebody that you love.
The A lot of times when people are in an argument, like a really, really heated argument, there are lower frequency entities that have gathered because they're sensing like, oh, dude, there's so much loosh that we can get off of this right now. Sadness, despair, anger. And what these lower frequency entities are kind of almost feeding the people involved in the argument is adrenaline. And adrenaline will make
Right.
you say stupid stuff, like serious. And the
I've done it.
adrenaline, yeah. And the adrenaline that we receive from these lower frequency entities are also why a lot of these arguments or, projections of anger and frustration continue for as long as they do, because there are entities that are still feeding off of it. So like a really good example I witnessed the other day, I hadn't been out to the grocery store for like 7 days because I'm a prepper kid. But I just wanted to get like snacks, you know, just little things that I didn't really prep for. And I noticed that there was a guy who was standing in line behind me, and he had waited because we were going to a grocery store where we have to wait like 10 minutes or so to get in. Like there's only 10 people allowed in the store at a time, so you have to wait outside. And he was on the phone saying, I was waiting already for 15 minutes to get inside the store, and then dad called and he just gave me a whole nother list of stuff that I need to get. And I tried to explain to him, like, I have to get for my family and blah blah blah, and just so frustrated.
Right.
And I guess he was talking to his sibling, and so it's like a family toxicity obligation of this dad that's manipulating his kids in a time of need. It's like he knew his son was going to the shop. He knew his son was already in line and had to buy food for his family, but then, decided I want to use this opportunity to manipulate him, get some energy out of him, vampire off him a little bit. Can you get me this and this and this and this and this? And by the way, use your money because I'm elderly. And yeah, even though you're already strained for resources, trying to provide for your family, and I'm living by myself, you know, like it's just that kind of weird, toxic, no respect, like you said, of no emotional limits and boundaries. So toxic relationships that might be contract ones with workplace, religion, animals, and romantic partners can be really detrimental to our energy fields. And now we're going to talk about how to sever or remove some of those toxic relationships if they are not serving your highest good. And so one of the ways as an energy work practitioner that I have been working with people is the act and method of cord cutting. Now, these are only suggestions that me and Amária are going to be discussing today. They're not textbook. They're not a necessary kind of like need to do in the ascension process. These are only suggestions of methods that we have both used in our energetic practices with other people that have been found to be effective. So the first way that I'll bring up is the crystal method of cord cutting and removing. And Amária, can you demonstrate how you would personally use a crystal as a cord cutter and how you would use it as a cord cutter in removing a toxic relationship or attachment?
Sure. I just have a couple different points. I mean, you don't have to have a perfect point. I just think that they have awesome energy, and they don't have to be this big. There's smaller ones as well. I mean, I've got them as little as that. It doesn't have to be anything big. I just like it to be natural because you're going to have that natural Schumann resonance going on. So even if I'm using the little one, for instance, you're going to be doing sweeping motions. And Crystal and I like to actually cover the soft spot of your head. So if you have more of an elongated skull, kind of, I do a little bit, just a little bit of a flatter face. So kind of comes up like that egg-shaped head or that elongated head. I'm going to have my hand back a little further. For those of you that maybe have a shorter skull or whatever, your soft spot area is going to be just a little bit more forward. If that just kind of helps you think of where would your soft spot be on those bony areas, just to kind of protect your third eye. And then your crystal, whether it's nice and little like this, you can make sweeping motions with your body, or you can do the larger one the same way, just making your wand. If you've got a wand that's wood, I know some people like to use different types of wood, that's fine too. It's just basically the intention. And sometimes I don't even use a wand. Sometimes I'll just use my hand and imagine there being a crystal or a wand. And so it's totally up to you how you want to do that cord cutting.
Yeah. And the act of cord cutting, what you're cutting off is any lower frequencies or negative energies that are around your energy field or attached to your energy field, which you do not consent to having present there. We discussed some and identified some toxic relationship examples earlier, and a lot of times these are some simple energies, lower frequency energies that people can remove themselves. You don't have to pay a practitioner to remove them. However, if you've been struggling for a minute, it's kind of nice to work with a practitioner like Amária or myself, so that we can show you and guide you of how maybe you may have some reoccurring hotspots that you may want to put a little bit more attention on when you're doing your energy field check-ins for yourself.
When you're looking for a mentor, I don't want to call it a guru because we're not gurus.
Hell no.
We're just at a different level of mastery. We're here to help you have some tools, and that's what we're here to do, is to help guide you. You've got to do the work, though. You've got to do the intention. You've got to do whatever that is. We're just helping you to guide you with some ideas or tools to be able to do it in a better flow state so that you can be more effective with your time.
Absolutely, because that sucks when you have to go into like 7 sessions in a day and all you're doing is cutting off crap from other people, and then you're stuck with all the things that fell off. and then you gotta go through.
Right, and you and I
Yeah.
have learned to see the attachments. We've learned to see whatever's wrong. You can do that too. We're not anything special. Every
Nope.
human being born has these abilities. It's like going to school, learning to read, learning to do math, learning to do whatever. You're just learning. And so what we're doing is we're helping you to learn those already innate gifts and abilities that you have so that you can progress and become basically to the level that we are, maybe pass us up faster. I would hope you'd jump light speeds ahead. I'd be excited.
Yeah. An example that one of my energy worker dude friends uses with his male clients is think of yourself as the car, and when it comes to lower frequency energetic attachments or blockages, it's like going into the engine and locating it. Maybe something might be leaking, or something might be broken, or something might be blocked. In the case of cord cutting, I kind of like to, when I'm working with clients, I like them to think about like their oil, like, where is your oil? Like,
right.
Some people don't even know where their oil is on their car. And how to check, like, this is your dipstick, this is how you check your oil. And when it comes time to changing your oil, this is the method. And so I liken cord cutting to, let's change your oil.
That's cool. That's cool.
Right?
Or maybe the muddy dog jumped into the car and got mud all over the upholstery. We can help you shampoo it. You can learn how to clean out those interiors depending on where that might be. Is it in an organ?
Yes.
Is it in an energy field? Is it something that just needs to be wiped down with that Reiki or that energy like sweeping like I was showing? So
Yeah.
totally. I really love that analogy with the car and changing the oil. That's
totally
awesome.
So
really
many, right?
Yeah.
And then going with your muddy dog upholstery kind of aspect, it's better to do your own detailing on this car versus taking it to a shop to have somebody else do. Because maybe that technician, this is the example that he uses, maybe that technician that you leave your car to detail actually has muddy hands from working on other cars.
Or
And
they
so you
picked
don't
their
want
nose.
that. Yeah. And so, you can remove the mud from the dog, but what is he leaving in return? Like, he might be leaving grosser things behind that might be more harmful. So that is why I think you and I both, we could both like agree on, it's best to do your own removals if you can, up to as much as you can, before you go and seek out guidance.
And if
or
you
seek out guidance.
Make sure that you're both grounded, well rested. If you notice maybe you're working with someone, they just don't feel so good, or you just aren't on par yourself, it's always good to reschedule. It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. Totally. Okay, so the crystal method that I use when I'm working with people in teaching them cord cutting is exactly like you did. Do you have a hematite around, or a pyrite, or just like a palm stone?
Right. Not on a larger palm stone. I've got my labradorite palm stone.
Oh, perfect. Let's use that.
And I also have an onyx one too. So
no, let's use onyx.
Okay.
So when I am doing a consultation, crystal consultation, and teaching people how to cord cut, exactly like how you're holding it, I recommend for people to hold their stone in the center of their dominant hand, in which case Amaria's is using her right. And you're going to use the same sweeping motions over the area where you're feeling the most heaviness or the most anxiety or the most tightness in your body or in your energy field. It's mostly on the body, and you want to use motions that are repetitive but end, so they have a very definite starting point and then a very definite ending point. And usually at the ending point, I also like to flick, like how Amária is showing in the video version of this at the end. So you have a starting point. Let's say if you could do a demonstration, Amária, from your third eye, the hand with the stone in your palm over your third eye. And let's say her heaviness that she's feeling is in the front of her body. She would start on the third eye, make a sweeping motion downwards towards her belly button. And it doesn't have to be fast. It can be slow and gradual. And then when she gets to the belly button, kind of shake it off so that you're letting go the energies off outside of your energy field. So you never want to cut the cord on an energy within your energy field. You always want to send it out. And the intention that you want to have is any frequencies of a lower vibration that do not belong to me, please send it back to where it came from, or something similar to that. So usually I say any lower frequencies or lower vibrations that do not belong to myself, may it return back to where it came from, or may it return back to source. I don't really like to send it into the light because not a lot of those entities come from the light. So I'd rather than be sent back to where their source is, so that it's kind of like karmically balanced and it just goes back to its source. If your psychic attack is coming from a person, then that would mean that that lower frequency, lower vibration would return back to the person where that energy originated from. And then usually once it feels nice and clear, I'll move to the back of exactly where that point is. So then it would be from right underneath the soft spot where Amária has her hand, and then I would sweep it as low as my hand could carry it. Or if the space is, let's say, right under your heart, let's say that's the target point, you can also just go right into the your back and put your stone right there and then move from the front to the back. When I'm doing cord cutting coaching, I like to tell people address the front and the back of the affected area so that we make sure that there are no residuals as much as possible that you're leaving behind. The point of cord cutting, and shamans have done this, medicine people have done this for years, whether it's with smudge, with sound, with drums, with stones, with medicine plants, or salves. Another way that people have removed cords is through salves or tinctures, or things like that. Is there are energies that are lower frequency that don't belong to you that may be affecting your health or may be affecting your mental state. And so that is the importance of cord cutting, and or how you can do it yourself without paying somebody to do it necessarily. Thank you for the demonstration.
Yeah, thank you. I like that palm stone one. I haven't used that particular technique, but I like that.
Yeah, it's like soap.
It felt really good because the audience may not know. I have a possible fracture in my rib and sternum area from a fall that I had on my bike with some weight to it. And so I've had a lot of pain breathing, but actually it feels really a lot more calm. So even just with this, I may have had something that was really residually from there, even from the fall. So
yep,
that's cool.
Sweet. I really hope that most of our listeners will also check out the video version of this broadcast on Amária Sweet's YouTube channel, because the demonstration that she just provided with the crystal cord cutting can be really beneficial. And it's just really simple things that you can do for yourself. What's that YouTube channel, Amária?
Just Amária Sweet. I've got a lot of different things I do. It's usually easier just to bring you right on into my channel. Amaria, Amária, and then Sweet, because hey, most of us have sweethearts, right?
They will after they hear us.
They will. And one of the things that I like to do with my cord cutting, I like to do the physical stuff, like with what I did with the sweeping. And I like to take it a step further because myself, for me, it's a lot easier whenever I do a lot of visualizing, a lot of that internalizing. I do a lot of trance work. And so there's going to be a meditation that you'll be able to find below the link that you can click on that I have done, that you can be able to visualize, and I'll basically do that directed meditation so that you can do the cord cutting as well. And you can apply whatever practice technique that you really, really feel like you resonate with.
People can also do your meditation with a smudging stick, correct? Like if
Oh,
they
that's a
wanted
good
to.
idea. Yeah, like
Yeah.
any kind of smudging stick. Like this one's white sage. I've got some dragon's blood. Sometimes the dragon's blood ones are really red like this. It's actually really cool. These are some that Crystal sent to me. And some of them aren't going to be red like this. They'll just have the dragon's blood in it wrapped. And then, of course, you might have like blue sage. You can get black sage if it's in your area. Just make sure it's sustainable, like the video that we talked about before, that, what's in your area that's sustainable, so that we're protecting nature, of course. Some people like to smudge like cedar or things like that. So a lot of different things. Palo Santo.
Yeah.
So,
you can also use an incense stick. If whatever incense you have on hand, you can also use incense smoke to do with that. I have sustainable around me, a rosemary plant. Like she's going to be a rosemary tree. I'm going to make her into a tree.
That'll
be
beautiful.
You can dry your own herbs like rosemary and then hang them upside down, and then in like a week or two they're ready to go. And the oils from rosemary is really nice as well. So that's what I use personally in my own smudge, or I'll use an incense stick. But just keep it simple. It doesn't have to be fancy. You don't have to go out and get something. Use what you have on hand, or use what you didn't know you had on hand.
Yeah, I like that rosemary
For
thing.
those
That's
who
really
have
cool.
Right? Something that one of my friends who's stuck at home used recently was she had cinnamon sticks.
Ooh.
Like cinnamon bark rolls.
Yum.
Yeah, and so
good.
Right? So in a pinch, she was like, dude, I have this spice rack that somebody gifted me for my wedding or whatever, and it had actual cinnamon bark in it. And so she was pressed for a smudge, and she got one of those rolls of the bark and lit it. And she was like, sweet. And if you have like a bodega kind of like convenience store, they usually have them at bodegas too for flavoring. They'll usually have cinnamon bark rolls there.
Right,
so.
right. I think even out here, just like your regular Kroger, Walmart has them in the spice area too, which is really cool.
Yeah, because some people are still experiencing like snowy, wintry conditions where they live, and you may not have access to, sage and things like that. So Mother Nature always has a way to clear.
Oh, yeah.
I might as well make it smell good.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Cinnamon bark. You can definitely use cinnamon bark.
What was it that you did the last show, or one of the shows we did a while back, making the liquid incense or the liquid spray too, like where she uses her sage oil or whatever we talked about. It doesn't have to be smoke. If you can't, maybe you're in a hotel room and there's just some dank energy there that you're like, dude, maybe keep a little ounce spray bottle with you or something when you travel, that you can be like, I'm smudging, dude.
Yeah. So while our listeners will be listening to your cord cutting meditation, they could also use that spray that they create. Yeah. So
good point.
There's already so those are already several ways and methods that people can use to remove those energies, making sure there's no residuals around, but they're doing it themselves. And that's what matters.
And if you're into like really deep prayer, get on your knees. That's another way you can smudge energetically. Whenever you're doing that prayer meditation and you're energetically sending out those requests to, God or your ancestors or whatever, just see yourself in that. Maybe the angels around you kind of helping sweep while you're doing that in your mind. Whatever way that you're doing, if you're incorporating that with your religion, it's just put that meaning to it. That's, you're giving it that intention, And there's so much power in that.
Yeah, when you add love into your intention, when it is related to your faith, it raises the frequency so high, like it can return back to the original intention of that faith. Like, let's say you're in a faith where now it's a lot of doom and gloom and guilt, but maybe originally when that faith was created, there were higher frequency intentions behind it, and then it just kind of got lost astray, or it got corrupted or compromised with programming. So add your own unconditional loving energy for your guides, for your ancestors, as they're working with you for your energy work. And you're going to raise it so high that like lower frequencies can't come back.
People doing that with their religions, you could really make a huge change just by being that leader, that person that's making the change. You're going to notice other people are going to follow, because really good people are going to have that good heart. Like, oh, I love that this person is this way. We tend to want to model those kind of things that we want to emulate to be better ones. So you could be that shift for your religion on bringing it back to that Christ-centeredness, that love, that forgiveness, that giving without having to have a reason. Whatever is a really amazing way to not have to worry about so many cords being attached, because you're already vibrating above that yucky vampirism energetically.
Exactly. Small model example, maybe you're the parent that's going to be doing your self-clearing and your cord cutting, and you may not be able to influence your partner, but maybe you're leading by energetic example for your kids that are watching you. Like these crystal kids and these crystal scouts nowadays, crystal scouts being like under 30 and younger, and until like 16. So from under 30 to 16, I'd say are about the crystal scout age. And then from 16 and younger, those are the crystal babies. They're very intelligent, and they pick up on energy so quickly. And if you're going to be that parent that's going to lead by energetic example for them, like this is a heavy energy that might be coming from your other parent, this is how I'm going to remove that and send it back to where it came from. That's leading by energetic example is awesome. And this goes for relatives and siblings and coworkers too. Like, you'll never know who you're influencing by leading by positive and high vibrational energetic example.
Right. I love that. We can be the change that we want to see in the world.
I have faith that everybody is going to be more conscious of their energy field now, and even more empowered, because this is a really good tool that we talked about today.
Oh yeah. And there's so many good people out there. I really have faith in our planet. I have faith in humanity. These are some really cool times. And being home together, we can make it kind of that little heaven on earth. Hey guys, please like and subscribe. I know a lot of you guys have listened on Amária Sweet and on YouTube. That's my YouTube station with HeartMind Expressions podcast. And then any questions or comments that you may have, you can leave them below. Those of you that are C4OC radio or Revelation 2 radio listeners can always reach out to Denny or Steve-O. I am so grateful for you guys. I love your radio. Super fun. You guys are a blast. And to contact me, you can contact me on my Amária Sweet YouTube page. On Facebook, there's Awaken, Empower, Thrive. That's my coaching, mentoring, and I'll have links below. And then the Fire Feather Phoenix Circle, you'll find Crystal or myself. That one is a screened group, women's group for the SSP experiencers and the like. And then I do have Amária Sweet on Facebook as well. It's kind of my performance side. And then Crystal.
People can find me on Instagram at Crystal, CRYSTAL _Cedar, SEEDER, like planting seeds. So that's Instagram at Crystal _Cedar. And then on my website at ascensionfromwithin.com. So Ascension, ASCENSION, from FROM, within, WITHIN.com.
You've been listening to Amária Sweet
and Crystal Cedar
on HeartMind Expressions podcast. Thanks so much, guys. Love y'all.